Hey everyone, welcome back to my SilverStripe series. In this video we'll be going over how to create some social icon links that we can loop over in our React code. We'll make a new directory called site config and we'll put that in the app folder. And then we'll create the social icons PHP. So we'll just create this file. Just go ahead and import these classes up here. Now a social link is going to have three different text fields. It's going to have a type, an icon, and a link. So we'll define those in the database array here. Next we will define the CMS fields, and we'll do that by defining the getCMS fields function. So it's going to be public function getCMS fields. Okay, and then this is going to return a new field list. So we'll say field list : create. Okay, just like this. Next we want our field list to return three different text fields for each of our database fields. So we'll do that. So we'll say text field create type, one for the icon, and one for the link. We'll pull the icon one down to the bottom here, and we'll call a method on here called setAttribute. Okay, and then we'll change the placeholder, and we'll say example Facebook lowercase. And we'll use this in our Font Awesome class to pull the right icon in. Next, you'll want to add these two arrays to your class. This has one will associate the social links to the site config, and the site config will be extended to have many social links. And the summary fields describe which field will be displayed in the grid field. Okay, so next we'll want to define a new class for our site config extension that I mentioned. So take a look at this, grab each of these classes. It's going to extend data extension, which will allow us to tack on more fields to the site config and edit the CMS fields. Next we'll want to define the hasMany array, and we'll want to do the inverse of this has1 on the social link. So this is going to have many social links, and we're going to relate that to that class. Next we'll update the CMS fields using the update CMS fields method, which takes a fields argument. So we'll take that fields and we'll add a new tab. And we'll add it at root.social, and it's going to be our grid field. We'll say social links for the field. We'll say social links with a space for the label. And then we'll call this owner, since this is an extension, social links to populate the fields. And then our config will just be a default grid field record editor. Then in our _config.php file, we'll include the site config class, and we'll say site config add extension, and then we could say site config extension class. Now if you run a dev build on your site, you should see a social tab in your settings here. So if we were to go to add a social link, we could say Facebook, and then we would just link to Facebook. And we could do the same thing down here. Next, we will return that in our viewable data array. So we'll say site config underscore social links. Okay, and then we'll set that to this site config social links, and then to nested array. Just like this. Go ahead and run npm run watch, and then we're going to go ahead and console log our data out. Okay, so yes, just save, and then that should trigger Webpack, and do this in our page.jsx file. Now if you refresh your front end in your console here, you should see the site config social links in our data object here. Next we can just take this and put it in our set state call here. So it would be site config social links equals data dot site config social links. Okay, and when the component is first loaded, we can initialize it as an empty array, and then we can go ahead and test to see if that has any elements in it. So we'll do that with this dot state dot site config social links, and then open it up like a ternary expression, just like this. Now if there are social links, we can open up a new list, and we'll give that the class name social banner. Remember, in React you need to use this class name to define a class, because the word class is reserved for actual JavaScript classes like this. But if we don't have any social links, we'll use the colon and just have an empty string in here. Okay, now to loop over our social links, we're going to call the map method on our social links. So it's going to be this dot state dot social links dot map. That's going to take the variable that we'll store each item as. So we'll just say social link, and then we can write this like an arrow function here. Now each of these will be a list item, and anytime that you loop over something like this in JSX, you're going to want a key. For our key, we'll say this dot state dot the site config social links dot index of, and then that will be the index of our social link. Okay, looks like there's something wrong in here. Let me just take a look at this. We're missing parentheses around our map method, so just add one to the end there and one right here, and then our highlighting looks normal again. Okay, in each list item there's going to be a link, and this is going to have the href property set to the social link dot link. And then inside here we can just write the social link type. Excuse me, this is a social link type. Okay, so now if you refresh your front end, you can see that we have our Facebook link here. If we click this, it'll take us to the Facebook page. You can go ahead and add more in your settings, and then they should all loop down here in this list. Right, so now we want to include Font Awesome, which is an icon library that we can attach our YouTube and our Facebook icons to just by pulling in their classes. Okay, to start this, we're going to set up our Sas Webpack Config. So we're going to make a directory for that. So it's going to be mkdir themes simple scss. And then we can include a few dependencies here. So we'll say npm I save dev, and we're going to want style loader, css loader, Sas,
Sas loader.
Next, you can head over to the Font Awesome website and you can install with npm here. So we're going to just copy this and paste it into our terminal. So now we'll arrow up here and get our Sas file. So we'll say custom.scss, and then we'll just open that with the subl command, just like this. And we'll say import, that'll be at Fort Awesome, and it's font awesome -free. Next, we'll want to configure Webpack to pick up our Sas file here. So we'll just go ahead and define a new line just like this, but instead of JavaScript, React, it will be the custom.scss file. So we'll say scss, and then over here will be custom.scss. Next, we will need a set of rules for our Sas files. So just like the JSX test up here, we'll test for CSS files. And instead of using the Babel loader, we'll use the style loader. And then a few more here. So we'll actually make this an array. And then we'll need the closing bracket down here. And we'll just copy this down twice. The second one is going to be the CSS loader, and the final one down here is going to be the Sas loader. And then on the CSS loader, we want some options. So we'll say options, and that'll be an object, and we want URL set to false. Okay, just like this. Okay, we'll run npm run watch up here, and then we're going to put the icon in here, and that's going to be an I tag, and it's going to have class name equal to, we'll do the backtick ES6 style string templating. So it'll be FAB FA dash, and it'll be the social link dot icon. Okay, and then we'll just close this up here, just like this. Now, if we go back to our front end, you'll see the squares here. Those are the missing icons, but you can see that our Font Awesome style sheets are coming in. The only reason they are empty squares like this is because we don't actually have the web font files. Those are being pulled in relative to the Font Awesome directory, which is in the node modules directory. So we're going to just want to copy some of that out into our theme. So we'll want to open up a file explorer for both the Font Awesome web font folder and the theme web font folder. So we can just right click this and say open folder, and we can search for the all.css file, and we're going to use some of the styles down here at the bottom for our imports right here. But we can go ahead and say reveal in the sidebar and find the web fonts and open this folder. Okay, and then we'll just want to copy everything in here to our theme web font folder. Next, we will just copy these lines here, so all of the font face rules, and we're going to just put those in our Sas file here. Okay, but then we're going to define a new variable, and that's going to be our theme directory. So we can say theme dir equals, and then this is relative to our public site root. So we want the resources, resources, themes, simple, and then we can just put a semicolon here. And then we can target both of these dots here because, again, this is looking for the web fonts in the module, but we need those at the site root. So we're just going to select all of these and then do a little bit of Sas string concatenation. So we're going to put in our variable. So it's going to be theme dir and then a plus sign, kind of like JavaScript almost. It's going to look like this. Now, if you refresh your site, you should see your icons loaded in here. If you don't, you may need to run a composer vendor expose. So that's about it for this video. You can go ahead and remove this console log statement afterwards. In the next video, we'll be going over how to create a spa-like navigation, so a single page application with no loading like this. And we'll do that using React Router. So I'll catch you then.